Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll start a new chapter. It's called Economic Importance of Bacteria and Fungi. Okay, so first let us understand what is bacteria. As you know, the bacteria are the primitive organisms. That means they were very small and they are the oldest living organisms. They are unicellular, that is made up of a single cell. They are prokaryotic, that is that the nucleus is not enclosed within a nuclear membrane. There, the genetic material is dispersed in the region of the cytoplasm without the nuclear membrane, the same thing that it is prokaryotic. Each bacterial cell is not enclosed in a nuclear membrane, hence the bacteria, they are placed under the kingdom of Monera. Okay, so we learned in the five kingdom classification that bacteria belongs to the class of kingdom Monera. Now, where are they found? They are found almost everywhere. They can be found in air, they are found in water, they are found in the soil, they are found in the food, on or inside the body of living organisms, even the human beings. Practically, they are found everywhere. In the human body, they are found in the mouth, on the skin, inside the intestines, and in the genital tracts. The bacteria present inside our intestines, they are the good bacteria and they help to synthesize vitamin B. Many of them also cause diseases to human beings and some of them are, however, beneficial to us. So this chapter we are going to focus our attention to the beneficial bacteria. Now, how do they occur? Now, how are they found? That is, they are found like this. They might be found like in pairs like this, and their name given to them is Diplococci. Okay, now if they are found like this, that is in chains. Okay, bacteria found in chains. Numerous bacteria joined end to end by chains. They are known as Streptococci. And if they are found in clusters like this, they are known as Staphylococci. Okay, so these are the three forms: Diplococci, Streptococci and Staphylococci. Now moving on to their shape. Okay, the size and their shape. Now what is the average size? The average size of a single bacteria will be around 2 micrometers long and 0.5 micrometers thick. Okay, now how much is 1 micrometer? Try to understand. 1 micrometer is 1,000th of a millimeter. Okay, the millimeter is the smallest division on your ruler. Okay, so that ka 1,000th part is a millimeter, is known as a micrometer, and there just 2 micrometers can make the size of a bacteria. Now, based on the shapes, there are 4 types of bacteria. They are known as the cocci, that is the spherical bacteria. So, if they are round shaped or spherical, they are known as cocci. If they are if they are rod shaped, they are known as bacilli. And if they are spiral shaped or if they are twisted, they are known as spirilla. And if they are comma shaped, they are known as vibrio. So, you have cocci, you have bacilli, spirilla, and Vibrio. Now we shall understand the structure of the bacteria. Now what does this bacteria consist of? Basically it consists of the living matter which is known as protoplasm. Now what is protoplasm? What is inside this is known as protoplasm. Protoplasm is equal to the cytoplasm, okay, plus the chromosome surrounded by the cell wall. So inside you will feel that you can see this part, this thread-like structure. That's the chromosome. So the chromosome plus the cell wall plus the cytoplasm. Okay. Now the cell wall. What is it made up of? It is made up of peptidoglycan. Okay. Peptidoglycan is the material that consists that is making up the cell wall. Now below the cell wall you can find the cell membrane, just like we did in the plant cell. Below the cell wall there is a cell membrane. Okay, now it does not have a defined nucleus. As you can see here, the nuclear material is dispersed inside the cytoplasm. That is, the DNA material is present here in the central region. The chromatin material is in the form of single cell and not enclosed in the nuclear membrane. This is all referring to the same thing, that the chromatin material, the DNA material is all found located at the central part, but there is no well-defined nucleus like you find in other cells, but there is no well-defined nucleus in the bacteria. Okay, now the cytoplasm, what does it consist of? Now besides this, besides the chromatin fibers and the cytoplasm, what else is present inside the cell? Well, you find the vacuoles are present, you find granules, and you find, in some cases, you do find chlorophyll also. Okay, so those types of bacteria can prepare their own food. Now it has got a slimy protective outer layer. You can see this, one more layer is there. Besides the cell wall, cell membrane, it has got one more layer, and that is known as a capsule. Okay, so here you have the three layers, a capsule, after that the cell wall, then the cell membrane. The cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, and you have inside this, the cytoplasm, you have the nuclear material which is dispersed in the cytoplasm. There is no well defined nucleus. There is a chromatin fibers, there is vacuoles, there is granules, and in some cases there can be chlorophyll also present, which can break their own food. Okay, so that's the description of the structure of the bacteria. Now let's move on to the movement. How do bacteria move? Okay, the most of the time the bacteria, they cannot move on their own. Okay, so they have to be transported either by the agent of wind, water, or simply by contact. Bacteria, they might have, okay, some bacteria may have whip-like structures known as the flagella. Like in this case, you can see this whip-like structure. It is a flagellum which will help in locomotion. Flagella can pierce through the cell wall and the capsule. The lashing movements of the flagella provide locomotion in a liquid environment. So if it is present in water or in any other liquid, then this flagella will help it to move. Let's move on to the nutrition. Now, most of the bacteria, they do not have chlorophyll. They are devoid of chlorophyll. Devoid means they do not have chlorophyll. And hence, they have to depend for others for their sources of food. That means what? That means they are heterotrophic. They are not autotrophic. They are heterotrophic. They depend on others for food. Now, how is this heterotrophic is further classified into saprophytic and parasitic. Now, what do we mean by saprophytic? It means depending on the decaying organisms for food. What do you mean by parasitic? Depending on the living substance, living body, okay, living animal body or living human body for their food. So they like to live on the body or inside the body of the living organisms, and saprophytic will grow on the dead, decaying organisms. Let's move on to transpiration. Now, how do most of the bacteria respire? Okay, so most of them, they do not actually, most of them don't require oxygen. Okay, so they can do anaerobic respiration, but some of them do conduct aerobic respiration, that is by absorbing the atmospheric oxygen. Now, if this anaerobic respiration is exposed to oxygen, okay, it cannot breathe. It does not have the mechanism to breathe when it is exposed to air. Okay, so they get killed when they are exposed to air. That is why you are advised to dry your clothes. Okay, keep things dry, keep these exposed to air so that it will kill the bacteria. Reproduction is only by means of asexual reproduction. Okay, that is the fission method or the division method. Now here I put up the diagram of the fission method of reproduction in bacteria. You can see this is one single bacteria and this is the chromatin material. Now as it matures, what happens to this chromatin material? Okay, the cell expands. First of all, the cell expands and this one chromatin material splits up into two chromatin material. Okay, so you can see the splitting up. This one structure has become two. Okay, now as it develops gradually, as it matures gradually, these two chromatin materials, they get separated. The two DNA materials get separated from each other. They're pulled apart from each other. Okay, and the cell constricts. You can see this constriction. The cell constricts at the center. Now depending on the type of bacteria, okay, either they can get separated and live in as two individuals or they can live together. Okay, so they are either made independent, okay, independent of each other, or they can grow together. Okay, so that is all about the reproduction by asexual method. This type of reproduction is also known as binary fission. We had also studied this last year, and sometimes they can be also um, into 4, that is known as multiple fission. Also, we had studied this last year, I think. Okay, now we come to the next part of reproduction. See, some of the bacteria, they can also undergo sexual reproduction. So let's study about that. Now, these are the two bacteria. Okay, one is known as a donor cell and one is known as a recipient cell. Okay, so now what happens? The plasmid, okay, which is also type of a DNA which is present in the donor cell, is passed to the recipient cell. Okay, it is passed to this by a little hollow tube which is coming from the donor cell. Okay, so from your tube emerges and it passes on the plasmid, which is another type of DNA, into the body of the recipient cell. Okay, so this is how it gives rise to a new individual. Okay, so two bacteria of different strains, okay, but of the same species. Okay, they come together and conjugation takes place. So this is known as the sexual method of reproduction. Now the third method is spore formation. This takes place during unfavorable conditions. It can be either too much of hot weather or too much of cold weather. The environment conditions, the temperature is not suitable for the normal type of reproduction. So this is actually an escape. Okay, to escape from those conditions, the extreme conditions, the bacteria undergoes this type of reproduction, that is spore formation. So during unfavorable conditions, what happens is the bacterial cell, it draws all its content. So whatever content is there, okay, whatever the cytoplasm, the vacuoles, everything, it will draw itself close to itself and it will form a spherical mass. Okay, it will form a spherical mass which is again covered by another hard protective shell. Okay, a hard protective wall. Okay, and this body is now known as a spore. Okay, this rounded body which is known as a spore now. Okay, and it has got a cell wall. Now when it is mature enough, what happens to the spore? The cell wall will rupture. Okay, once the cell wall is rupturing, the spores are there inside. Okay, the spores are there inside. Okay, they get dispersed. Okay, so this is also known as the resting stage. Okay, the resting stage, and this stage it can withstand the unfavorable conditions. So when the conditions return, that is when the cell wall will rupture and they will become the bacteria again. So that is the third method of spore formation. Now, what is the characteristics of these spores? They can tolerate extreme dryness. Okay, they cannot be killed at a temperature of either boiling water or even freezing ice. Okay, at both these temperatures, they can withstand. Okay, so that is why we are saying that spore formation takes place during unfavorable conditions. Some of them can even tolerate the poisonous chemicals also. The spores are carried far and wide by wind, water, or by contact. Okay, on meeting favorable conditions, what will happen to them? I said again, they will germinate. They will produce a new bacteria. The dormant protoplasm becomes active and comes out of the ruptured wall in the form of a new bacterium. So what has actually happening at that point? Okay, at that point when it ruptures, cell wall ruptures and the spores come out. Okay, what is happening is that protoplasm which was lying dormant there, okay, which was lying dormant there when it formed that structure, is now released. Okay, it comes out, it gets ruptured, it comes out of the ruptured wall, and that will form into a new bacteria. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.